Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is OctoMan from OctoManGames.com, and in this part, I'm gonna go and continue working on my Defend the Castle game prototype or gaming something. This series is more or less about how to get stuff up and running in the first place. Maybe I'm going to go forward later on and wanna go and publish that game somewhere, like maybe on Steam, maybe on itch.io, or even GameJolt or somewhere else. So I'm gonna try to give you a pretty basic overview about everything I'm going to do here. So this is not a tutorial series in general. I mean, I try to explain several things. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them, put them into the chat or later on down below in the actual comments area, and let me know what you think about it. And if you want to learn more about content I'm creating, or maybe you want to learn something specific, then, well, you are absolutely free to join one of my online courses. Links are down below in the description. You can also hire me if you need some help for your own projects. So feel free to go to my website, OctoManGames.com. Even that is down below in the description. And, well, if you want to, feel free to join the community on the Discord channel. This link should also be down below in the description. So what is that about? Well, everyone who has seen the last video stream about it is basically there are a couple of, let's say, baddies around this particular something which I want to defend or protect or something like that. So I was working about or on this a bit in between, like yesterday a bit, today a bit, and so on and so forth. I implemented some things and I noticed several things as well, which I want to discuss in this video or in this live stream, which means I want to implement multiple things. I already started to work on range attacks, and now I want to also, with you together, I want to do melee attacks, and basically based on settings and stuff like that, I can determine different actions to be done by these enemies, for example, or by the player characters to do so. So basically what I have is these little towers here. This is going to be what later on has to be built or created by the player itself. So in the first place, nothing really is going to happen over there. But let's assume when there's like wave 2 or 3 of enemies popping in, or maybe the first 2 or 3 cycles are over, then you might have to have some of these towers built already, and probably some units already, let's say, generated around these towers, and based on that they're gonna go continue working on this and trying to protect your chest or your castle or your main building, whatever that is. And ultimately later on there are also other different buildings popping into which you have to protect. So, and based on how many I have protected over the last whatever interval, let's say, well, then I get more coins, and I'm gonna go and implement a like a character, an extra playable character, probably later on as well, in which I can steer by hand or with a joypad, or maybe by clicking on a certain position. I'm not quite sure about this yet. So what I need to do with that person is later on go into or next to something I can build, and I can only build it when I'm next to it, something like that. So meanwhile, hordes are coming over there, and I'm gonna go and create some. So let me show you pretty quickly where I am at the moment, which means currently I only have some archers I can produce, or archer kind of yeah, let's say guys. They don't really do damage or something, but I want to try to start with that implementation about doing damage, but also I need to change several things. So these outer 2 towers over here, they don't produce something at the moment, but this tower here in the middle has a little spawn script with a little spawn point over there. I mean, the other 2 have as well, but this one here generates 2 units. I can also reduce that, and this is happening on game start. So when I do this, it is going to happen that they are going to become generated next to each other. So I just rewrote this a bit, and what they do have is these little passes, I would say. And this one is a height, so how high an arrow can fly. And what now happens is whenever they are, let's say they see something, they are allowed to create those little arrows, and they're flying next to the whichever current enemy has been detected, let's say, But this is a problem over here, and I want to show what the problem actually is. So the first one is my detection is currently based on colliders, and the problem with colliders in general are, let me get some of my normal units, which is going to be one of that core player unit. So this is the detection range of an archer, let's say. And when I just say, okay, this one has been probably the first ones being detected, it has only this size. But if I select them both at the same time, what's happening whenever they are overlapping to each other, they get detected already. So it's not about the base of that object or that unit, but the detection is going to happen based on the, let's say, the other circle collider or sphere collider over here. So these two are going to be measured. And this is a problem. Why is that a problem? Well, as you can see, it can detect way much earlier where or how something is going to become generated over there. And I don't want to do this. I want to make sure that the actual arrows are only being shot to the target's position whenever the actual enemy is going to be visible and not the outside, like the collider of the other person. And vice versa, what will happen in a melee scenario, if that would be a melee character, then this character would, for example, go and chase these archers, which is fine, but they would start too early because their detection range has a different range, or maybe not the correct range to become detected. So they're gonna spread, creating hundreds of arrows over here, shooting at them every time they are going to get a visit on, well, from somewhere. Like whenever something is going inside this range over here, they are shooting them or trying to shoot them all over here. And there have been a bunch of problems with the shooting mechanics. That's why I'm using passes over here, which are going to make sure that the rotation of the arrows are going to be correctly calculated and stuff like that. So they are just literally following their own path. And once they reach the end of the path, they don't do anything else, at least not for the moment. So this is what I currently have. So if I put like hundreds of different archers over here, of course they can, go and shoot at them, but they don't really detect that they get hit by something. Why not? Because it's the same problem. The problem is that the circle collider or the sphere collider of the actual enemy would get too early information. Pretty quickly, I want to explain why that is and what I want to do against it. So once again, if I have a target at this point, like a capsule, and I have another capsule who is having this detection and they are intersecting, let's say here, the actual target would, or like this guy would notice this guy and this guy would notice that guy, which is okay. But at the same time, when I now shoot something into the collider area of this guy, which is just a detection range, it would already do a hit here. It would not wait until the actual character gets hit. And so that is why the collider approach in this particular case and in multiple other cases is not really what I want. So for that reason, I want to rearrange or recreate the detection possibilities, let's say. Instead of using a collider, I want to do something different, and which is not detectable by the arrows. So the arrow cannot hit this collider range over there, and vice versa. Whenever I try to hit a certain area, for example, this collider, box collider, whatever, the actual detection range will not be, will also not notify anything of that. And also, same thing, this range, like if it is a detection range, if they do intersect, they do not see each other. They do just not care as long as the person or this collider of the main object is going to enter this area over here. Only then it will be targeted. So this is what I'm going to try to fix today. I'm going to write something extra, which is going to hopefully help me with the total detection over here. And so I can also determine easier if some melee attack should happen at a certain spot, as well as like whenever somebody is inside the detection range to make a melee attack, as well as a detection range to go to someone to override its movement target, let's say, to do an actual melee attack. So they can storm each other, they can basically hunt for each other, and so on and so forth. So that is what I'm going to start today and want to go forward with. So, and it is some kind of a weird, probably a weird approach, but it is it is more intense based on working on it. But I need to do this. I need to prepare this, because otherwise the colliders will intersect each other, even if they don't really have to, or they should not do anything like that. So what I need is some kind of a sensor, and I'm gonna name this just sensor because it is just doing that thing. It just should check for certain things in certain layers and ignore everything else. And for that, I can do a sensor, can sensor for everything I want. For example, a player character can only sensor for enemy layer, let's say, and vice versa. And so this will help me to determine better the in-betweens and the attack states between, or on these characters all alone. So what do I need actually is something which is going to be able to take this information. Who are we going to, or who do I actually who can I censor, basically? So based on a layer mask. So that's where I want to start with. I want to make sure that I create some serialized fields for that, and a layer mask. I just name it layer to check or something similar. So when I got this layer to check, I can check only certain things inside this particular layer. Also, I need to have, maybe since I'm using spheres or detection spheres, I need to have some kind of a radius. And the radius is going to be a float, in my opinion, so I can test around with that. So I'm gonna make another serialized field. Gonna put a float, and this is going to be the detect radius. Detect radius. If I want to, I can start with that. Maybe make it a size of, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 or something like that. Basically, doesn't matter. Also, I want to give it maybe a range slider. I don't have to, but I can. So I make a range, open those parentheses, put in something between, let's say, 1 and I'm not quite sure, 20 maybe, plus minus a bit. I'm gonna have to play around with numbers later on, since I want to see how far or how close a enemy has to be next to a archer, for example, or next to a melee, and so on and so forth. And so archers will have another detection range than melee units, obviously. So what do I need to do is I want to have a system constantly running in the background, but not like a collider, which is constantly doing checks and stuff like that. I want to have it so that whenever necessary, like let's assume every once a second or every half a second, I only want to do one simple check, and I want to see if somebody is in range or even not. So, and to do so, I'm gonna use something called a coroutine or enumerator, and I can just name this one check. So, and in this check, I want to create still a physical approach that is needed. So I want to see if something is overlapping a certain, let's say, sphere or something similar. So to do so, we can do return or do, say we check, we have detected something, we as a unit, as a single unit, and we can give back an information to somebody, like who do we have detected. We can return or notify others or notify ourselves who is our next target, basically. And also whenever they are not in range or not the first target in range, then we can say, well, we don't have a target, so who cares, right? We don't need to do anything. So this is basically the system behind it, or the idea I'm currently after. In the Unity API, I'm gonna try to fill that pretty quickly out where that is. we have a bunch of physics checks we can make use of. So we have a physics dot, I believe, overlap sphere. Overlap sphere, let me pretty quick, sphere, can't type today. I tried to find the API pretty quick. There we go. And I'm gonna show that to you here as well. So what I do is, give me 1 second. I want to see the stream as well. So what we got is we got a position parameter, we got a radius we have to define or can define, as well as we have a layer mask in which we can do a check, and we can also query some trigger interactions. And how that works is based on the Unity API. So make sure you always use that to see what you can use as examples. What we can do is we can basically, using the overlap sphere, can see how many colliders are inside. We can store them in a collider array. It doesn't really matter what type of collider that is. But this one is not the correct approach, basically. As we can see, we can also say which layer mask we want to have it in here. So we basically just call overlap sphere with the position, which is basically the main position of the unit itself. Then we got a float radius, and then we got this layer mask, and once again, these query interactions. So what we can do is we can later on, for example, loop through and see what we want to do to each single hit collider or collider we hit, or we basically found at this certain point. In this case, it's an explosion, so everybody who's close to that explosion would basically get damage. As an example, like here, it just uses send message to add damage, and we're gonna do literally the same, but for my archers as an example, I only want to hit one certain thing. So basically the first collider I find over there, I want to activate or want to do something. I want to target that with my range units. And if it is a melee array, a melee guy, I want to do the same. And depending on which sensor I later on are going to trigger, let's say, or whichever I want to or would like to measure against, I have two things I can do there. I can have a close range and a short or a big range area to be detected. So how do I now use that in my enumerator? Well, first of all, I want to have something where this check is constantly running in the background. That means I need to put it inside a while loop. I could also not do this in a while loop. I can also say after a certain amount of time, I want to do a recheck. Basically, both works. So what we can say in here, while true, so while we do our own check, we can wait for a certain amount of time before we do a check. And we can define this wait time or this delay or whatever in any float, for example, anywhere I want. For example, I can put it in here, float, let's say check delay, because I don't want to have this one too much. I don't want to see too often what's going to happen. So I'm gonna maybe pick every half a second as an example. Whenever we start this, we can just say, okay, we create a new float over here, maybe something like current time. In the last stream, somebody already mentioned that I should not use yield, return, new, wait for seconds, yada, yada, yada. I can do this. I don't have to do this. I can also use a float, as I already explained in the last stream about this program or about this topic. Is basically I just store or just check against the check delay, and I can store that inside the current time. So meanwhile, we inside this loop, we can increment current time plus equal time dot delta time. So in that case, we can just increase current time until we have reached check delay. So what we can do is when current time is bigger or equal the check delay, then we can do something. The actual check mechanic we want to go for. And if we have done all of that stuff in here, we can reset current time. So we can literally start from scratch. So we can say current time is equal to 0. So we reset the time. Meanwhile, we are in this while loop. Also, we need to make sure in coroutines that we use yield statements at the very end. which means yield return null. We want to stay inside this while loop here. So while true, we yield return null. So nothing is going to happen meanwhile. So in here we got current time plus equal time.delta time. Then we're going to go and check current time against the check delay, whichever we want. Then we can do our physics check. Then we reset everything. And then we get back and return, or actually restart this, this check approach. So how do I do this right now? I can do this physics dot check. Oh no, what was it? Overlap sphere. Overlap sphere. Open those parentheses, and in here we now have to fill in all the parameters. And you can see once again the position is basically transform.position, so I don't have to play around with them. I just get rid of the extra pair of parentheses. So transform.position is going to be where I want my check sphere to be approached. Then I have this radius, which is going to be my detect radius, like this. And what else? Well, the layer mask. In our case, it's the layer to check. Usually, I could also implement multiple layers to be checked, so that does not hold us back to, do something. So, and if that returns a true or false, I can just say whoever needed, whoever needs this information. For example, depending on maybe I have connected my main script to target somebody, I should be able to return this information from this overlap sphere and send it to somebody or to something I may have connected to the sensor. So in my case, it would be probably my actual unit this particular sensor is going to be connected to. So what we can do is we create a serialized field unit. Serialized field unit. So I can drag in a unit if I want to. I can also on start pick it first. Also, I can use something totally different over here. So we can play, or I can play around with that and later on decide which is going to be better than the other. So, and this is just my unit in general. So I can talk to it, whatever a parent object is going to be part of unit, basically, since unit itself is a protected, an abstract class, so I cannot directly do changes in there, but this unit also will not be directly placed on an object, so it's just the actual parent, inheritance object from any other type units, no matter what type of unit it is. Could be an archer, could be melee, could be a big unit, could be a tank, could be a spaceship. It doesn't matter at all. A unit is just something I can talk to using overrides and virtual voids and stuff like that. So what I can do is I can talk to this unit and can say, hey, I have something to detect it whenever I take whatever I get out of this. And this overlap sphere returns a collider array, as you can see. So we should maybe store this information inside the collider array. Detected units or enemies. And enemies in this case means not enemies for the player, it means enemies for everybody. Like whoever is from faction A to faction B, the enemy is based on the layer to check. So it doesn't really matter which one I want to go for. So what I can now take is from the first collider I find over here for a melee or for a range attack unit, that's more than enough as information. I can just take the first index whenever I find something over there. So when it is bigger than 0, basically, I send this information to unit. I can also say I haven't found anything. That's also totally fine. So what I can also do is I'm gonna go and tell my unit dot, and now I have something like, hey, attack the enemy. And this is what I'm gonna took also in the other approach. So by using the collider for here, I just need to make sure that I have a game object target, which is going to listen to that, or basically gets the information, or the actual unit itself gets the information, and I need to tell, hey, you have to attack the unit, or maybe you have to go closer to unit. I don't have to go closer to unit yet, but I can implement this at the same way, basically. I can also determine probably about, well, what this particular sensor should do at the certain point as well. So how do I get this information right now? I can just say detected enemies in square brackets 0, which returns the collider. So a collider usually also have a game object. And so this is what I can pass over now to my actual enemy, and I should be able to attack it every whatever that check delay is. There are other things I need to take in consideration with this check delay, but because currently it would constantly shoot, for example, every half a second it would generate a new array or arrow basically and shoot it to the enemy side. I don't want to do this, so I need to make sure that I only do an attack whenever I can do an attack, but let me keep it for that at the moment. For the sensor itself, I also want to make sure that I can see what I do, and I can tint it based on if there's something detected or even not. And to do so, I can use something called OnDrawGizmos. Maybe you heard about it already. OnDrawGizmos is just a helper function for me, in which I can OnDrawGizmos gizmos like that. What I want to do in here is I want to tint or show what I actually see and how big is the actual detection range radius, and how do I determine and how do I tint. If somebody enters that, I can say, oh, I have detected something, I have to be tinted, or I have to tint this. And to do so, I can do two things to see if somebody is close to me. First off, I need to check if detected enemies is bigger than 0. So basically, I need to know how many there are inside. Since it is an array, I need to say detected enemy.length. At the same time, I want to go and take my information to my enemy script, but also I can say something like, hey, put a boolean. So I can use that boolean to tint, for example, something in the scene, so I can see this. Well, this is not seen in the game later on. This is more seen like whenever we are in Unity itself. So I take this boolean and say detected enemy or detected something. Let me name it something first, because I'm not not quite sure what it could be. And we're gonna start with a false. So we can do set the detected something to be equal to true. So whenever we know that we have detected something with this check, with this coroutine check. Also, what we want to do is whenever we are done with that, like we are going out of this if detection range something, and we are basically in the next loop, in the next iteration, we want to make sure that we reset the detected something to be false, basically. So usually we're gonna do this whenever we are outside this if statement, or whenever we reset this time. So it could be both one or the other way around. So for example, I can say detected something is equal to be false. So I reset it over here. If that is the wrong position, I can put it outside before the yield null statement over there as well. Control S for quick save. And that should be it for the check itself. In tinting that, or to see how huge is my sensor, I can do something like if I've detected something, so if detected something, I can do tint or create something, or tint something like change a color or something similar. So beforehand, I want to determine the color, gizmos.color, and I'm gonna say color.green, so we can exactly see what's going to happen. Also, what I want to generate or create is a sphere which is showing me what the size of the actual sensor is going to be. So we can say gizmos.drawSphere or drawWireSphere. I'm gonna use a draw sphere here, I believe, since I wanna maybe tint this with maybe some color I can pick, or I'm gonna choose or create something with a transparency over here as well. So we can draw a sphere, and now we need to determine where we want to draw that. I'm gonna draw that at transform.position, and we got the radius, which is obviously our detection radius, right? So currently the sphere will be automatically been green. So it's just a RGB. As you can see, it has a 1 here, but the alpha value is also 1. So I cannot, basically I cannot look through. I have two possibilities. I can create color fields in which I can determine an alpha color or an alpha scheme. So I can also look through, and I can also say when I have detected something that I want to, show not a green but a red color, for example, or any type of a color. To do so, I can say I'm gonna do this maybe below here. Gonna make a new color header or something. So header. The headers are used for making sure that we can see stuff better or more organized inside the inspector. I'm gonna say colors. And this header is usually red underlined when no public variable is going, or a serialized property or a serialized field is going to be below it. So we need to put content below it in the first place. In that case, it's a serialized field, which is a color 32. Because color 32 holds also alpha values. I mean, the colors do hold alpha values as well, but sometimes they are not really as they, well, let's say should be. Is equal to new. Well, not new. We just need a name. It's the undetected color. Undetected color. And we maybe can create a new color 32 already over here. We need to pass in values, and these values are, as we can see here, a byte-wise color, so somewhere between 0 and 255. So we don't want to have a red one. We want full green, so 255, no blue, and I can change this in the inspector later. And we want to have an alpha value of 0.22 or something. No, it's not 0.22. It has to be an integer-like color or number, which is maybe 100. So 100 is like 255 would be 100%. Half of that would be, half of that. Let me do 80. And that should be it. And also I want to create another one. Now you can see the header has not this red underline anymore. I'm going to have the detected color, which I want to have full red, but no green. So I can get rid of that. And I keep the alpha value. So these are the basic settings, the basic values over here. So when I now do that, I can now say I can set the colors, based on whatever I want to, and I can do else, and I can do something else. Let me draw the sphere below, and let me pick the color part and put this in here. And in here. So if I have, let's say, not detected anything, because let's start with that, it's easier. I want to say I have the undetected color over here. And if I have detected something, I have the detected color over there. And below that, after tinting these colors, I want to make sure, well, that was a wrong one. Gonna have to undo it multiple times. I'm gonna copy that. And I want to draw the actual wire sphere below the color change. So I want to do the change first, then I want to draw the actual detection color. So now I have detected and undetected colors based on if I have detected something or not, which is going to happen over there. So last thing is, well, I need to start the check. So I can do this in, well, on enable or in start. So void start, open those parentheses. And in here, we just say start coroutine. I don't have to do this multiple hundreds of different times. Start coroutine. And which coroutine we want to do is we want to start the coroutine for check. Probably I need to change something here and there, but we'll see. So now I have a sensor, and I can put in a unit, my unit, a layer to check, and I have a detection radius, a check delay, and a boolean, as well as some colors. So what do I want to do right now is I want to change my my main units a bit. So from my player units, because these are currently the only ones which are able to shoot basically. And I also want to do some other things over there in a moment. But for the moment, I'm gonna go and take my player prefab. And as you can see, it has this huge sphere collider, which is, was my first detection part. And I want to get rid of that because I have the other collider, which is the box collider, which is doing, which should be the actual damage taker. I don't want to get damaged in this sphere collider, so that's why all of that hassle. So I'm gonna take the sphere collider and remove it. Remove component. Also, I need to go into the script themselves and change something here and there, I guess. So as you can see, I have set this one to be arranged, and I have this detect radius over here already. So basically, I don't need this detect radius anymore, since the detection collider and stuff like that now gets exchanged by that stuff. So what I can do is I can take literally any object as a child object, and I can create this and put this wherever I want. I can put this in front and back, next to me, around me, and so on. I'm gonna name this maybe sensor 1, and I want to make sure that's at 0, 0, 0, which is here at the bottom. So on the sensor 1, I want to drag my new sensor script, and as you can see, it automatically creates this green bubble, which comes from the Andro Gizmos piece, right? I can change the color here if I want to, can reduce alpha, increase alpha, well, all of that totally up to me. I put that one on 80. And if somebody is inside this detection range, it should turn automatically to this detected color. And once that happens, and only then, I want to do changes. Same here for detection radius. Now, if I increase or decrease that, I have this ball around me, also in the bottom over there, but we don't really care, at least not for the moment. We can do, check everything around or inside this, rather low poly gizmo over there. So this gizmo is not seen in game view. As we can see, we can make it visible by going to activate gizmos if we want to see them, but for the moment, it's not necessary at all. So that is basically everything for this ranged unit at this particular point. Now I want a layer to check, and as we can see, I don't have an enemy layer, I don't have a player layer or friendly or whatever. So I need to go and create them. So I add a new layer here, name it enemies. And by the way, buildings are also enemies, right? So whenever I come close to a building, I can say this is my new target. So I can attack this target until it's not there anymore, as an example. So I'm gonna have an enemy layer, maybe a player layer, and later on maybe I have a buildings for enemy, buildings for players, if it comes to different scenarios, whatever I have to do over there, I don't know yet. But again, in that prototyping stage, I want to be 100% sure that nothing fancy is going to happen. So with that sensor, we should now hopefully see something happening. Also, I want to make sure that I drag me as a main unit inside this unit script. Also, I need to open this unit script for a moment, which is the actually the player unit, but I'm not doing anything over here. As we can see, I have now here this on trigger enter, on trigger exit part, which I don't really need anymore because, well, I detect them using the sensors. And same for trigger exit. I can, for the moment at least, totally get rid of that piece. I can keep in these pieces over there of code, but I don't really have to because currently they don't do much, at least not for the moment. So for my ranged, I have my arrow prefab, my spawn point, and my shooting path. And I have this little enum in which I can define, is it a melee unit or is it a ranged unit? So later on, each unit is going to its own thing. It's going to instantiate its own arrow or bullet thing, whatever, which I'm gonna do later on, put into the actual units themselves, like in the sub-unit classes. So it will not be inside the main unit class, but for the moment I just keep it in there. Also, I can, when I define these unit types inside the players themselves, I can also determine maybe later on multiple other unit types to increase or decrease movement speed and all of that hustle. So, enemy in range list, I believe I never used it. Well, no, I don't. And what we can see, this is my how I do attacks at the moment based on whatever my type is, the unit type is. If I am a melee type, I should do something like go closer and do an attack. And if I'm a ranged character, I just should target or take a look into the new target and so on and so forth. I generate a new arrow, which I'm gonna go and set a new target to, and then all the shooting mechanics are going to happen. So, and for that, everything is prepared so far. And yeah, that should be it. So I just needed to take out the on collision or on trigger enter, on trigger exit functions, because they are now only part for the little box collider. So I don't have this huge collider on myself, you know, to be visualized, let's say. Also, I can get rid of the detection radius, I guess. So let's see. If I do that, I probably also ruin something else, but it doesn't matter, at least for the moment. So I don't need the detection collider, and I don't need the detection radius. Maybe I'm gonna need them, the detect, let's say, sensor to make it useful, maybe for me later. But I need still the target. That looks good. Once again, I'm gonna take later on arrow prefabs and stuff and put this into the player units because, well, I also want to make sure that when there are certain pieces that I don't do much here. So on Gizmos detect collider null, I had drawn something here. So detect collider.radius on the unit itself, on the on Gizmos function. I'm not quite sure what I did there. So I just command this on Gizmos out, or just get rid of that, which is also sitting directly inside the unit class. Which was relevant to the detection range or detection radius. Cool. So something is here, rotation speed is assigned but never used. Well, I'm gonna get rid of that one later. But now I want to test. So I'm gonna update this. I'm gonna go to sensor 1, which is the outer sensor. Later on, multiple sensors can be used. For example, if I'm in close range, I maybe can make my shooting guys also can turn them to melee guys if I want to. And I can use that, by the way, also later on for my player character if I use one. So I increase my detection range. So I want to measure 100% if that matches and does what it should. But before I can detect something with this sensor, I'm going to have to do layer to check has to be enemy layer. I could also select multiple, but I need to do something different to like code-wise. And I need to update this player unit. So I just go to overrides and apply all. Now I get rid of this unit because they get spawned automatically, and I need to take one of my enemies and I need to put that inside the enemy layer. And I just take this object only. So with that, I'm gonna save my scene, save everything. I'm gonna check. This one is trigger, sphere collider is not needed. So I can get rid of it. So I only have the box collider as I have on the other character, which is, you know, just top to bottom over there. I could also use any other collision over there, any other objects collision, stuff like that. So let's see if my little guys, which I do spawn in a second, I'm gonna pause. We can see they do have these little, you know, range detection areas automatically generated, these sensors. And now they constantly, every half a second, they're gonna check what is going to happen. So now it's going to be a bit of interest. So what they do now, they can see them. They have detected them once they've reached this area. So my arrows should shoot at this point, and you can see 2 of them arrows are already shooting into this direction. And they're gonna do this constantly. Every half a second they're shooting anyone who is inside this detection range. Now they're gonna go aim this guy or whoever is going to, you know, enter this area. And with that, I have made multiple processes at the same time. I was getting rid of some problems I had before, like the detection itself on them. And every unit can now use a certain different mechanic based on these 2 sensors or 1 sensor. So once again, I can now put hundreds of different sensors in front, in the back, next to me, close to me, whatever. And I can use that also even on towers and tell, hey, I don't have enough guys inside my detection range. Like I need to create more units, for example, and so on and so forth. So with that, I can now also start with melee attacks on the enemy base. So let me open that prefab pretty quick to take a look. So my enemy base is basically the same thing as my player base, but this is a unit type melee. And it doesn't have an arrow prefab, it doesn't have a spawn point, stuff like that, because I want to make sure that they are creating like hit objects or something to show that they are doing some attack over here and over there. Meanwhile, for example, passing over, or maybe they walk closer to an enemy, so they come into attack range, which is going to be a second sensor in this particular case. So first off, when they detect something of type enemy, they're gonna go to it. That's what I want to achieve in the first place. Hey, I have seen something inside the player layer. And the second thing is I want to go closer so I can attack them. And so we need to talk to the nav measure agent as well. So we need to do some code flushing back and forth, but I believe that shouldn't be too heavy over there. And they got the rigid body so they can also get information about it. So inside this, you can see I don't have this detection range anymore because I didn't need it that. But what I want to give it is also an empty game object for sensor 1. I can also say this is the detection sensor. And the cool thing about this method is I can easily create hundreds of different sensors to do something. So, and I can tell also the action the sensor should, let's say, trigger. For example, I have a drop-down menu and can say, hey, don't do the attack, but do the go closer to the target if needed. So this can be a detection sensor to detect if he's close or not. Sensor. It's based on the bottom, and then I can do another one. So I duplicate this sensor. And this is going to be maybe the attack sensor or melee attack sensor. So whenever this is actually being triggered or somebody is close, I'm gonna do hits. So the detect radius for that one will be way smaller, maybe, I don't know, like that. So he has to go really close. So maybe 0.9 or something like that. And the detection color, well, can also be maybe like that. Oh, there's one more thing I haven't noticed and I want to see right now and recheck. And this recheck is based on, I want to see if the colors are doing a change whenever they detect something. I didn't really watch it. Maybe you guys did. But I want to see if these bubbles are turning red. I really didn't notice anything. So here they come. Well, that's not really happening here inside my sensor. So let's see what's happening. So we do the check. Maybe it's because of this one. So current time seems to get reduced. Maybe I'm gonna have to detect something over here. Not quite sure. Or maybe detect a color? Oh. Let's see. Maybe I can not spawn like 10 or 20 at a time. Maybe I just spawn one and see maybe a bit more working on these actual detection range sensors over here. And can get a bit more better feeling of why that might turn into, well, nothing. Maybe I'm gonna store them not in a so they do shoot, they detect this guy, but they do not tint the actual outer. I mean, it's not needed because they do the work. But what I want to achieve is basically that I can see that they are really doing something. So maybe I'm gonna do this a bit different. Maybe I'm gonna store all these colliders over here in a collider array. Collider array. Detected units or enemies. Enemies. Copy. Detected enemy is bigger than that, which is only happening when the destroy time is gone here. So maybe I need to do an extra check to do this correctly. So because currently it's just only if the current time is bigger than the delay time, I'm gonna do a new overlap sphere check. But I believe this part have to be outside. Not quite sure. Let's try. Gonna put this down below. So because I can do this check every now and then anyways, and I can say, okay, once I'm done with that, current time, well, yeah, it needs to be reset. But I believe meanwhile this is not happening, I still can see if there is somebody detected or not. Maybe I need to, this is now another question, maybe I have to get rid of some enemies, or maybe I have to clear the enemies list before I do create more or open more. So maybe I have to say detected enemies dot, well, what is it on an array? How do I clear an array? Can just say length equal to 0? No idea. Is read only as fixed size? Problem with an array is I have to determine a size. Let me make this one not a collider array but a list. This might sound a bit counterintuitive since the list is not taking arrays or array content directly, but it's more dynamic and I can clear it at any time. So I can say detected, no, it's equal to new list of type collider, whatever type, I don't care. And now I can do, I believe I have to say dot add, it doesn't let me get rid of that one first. Need that. I want to add a range of content from physics.overlap sphere, but I need to convert it to an array, I guess. How do I do this? Move. Does that work? Not quite sure. And here I'm going to use dot count, And before I do this check, I'm gonna clear the detected enemy list. So detected enemies.clear. So I just empty out whatever I got. Control S for quick save. And then I can reset the time so I can go forward. Let's see if that works. Not quite sure, because usually when you add a range from an array, it might be that this array type. No, it doesn't work. It cannot work, but let's try it out. Usually I need to loop through certain content probably, which is maybe a bit more even. Not quite sure. Let's see. Because I might get a list of physics overlaps. Now they are shooting like ever, like 100 trillion, 100 trillion of times a stream of arrows. Even if they are targeting him, they are too slow to hit him. But in general, it does its job. It just doesn't do, as I said before, it just doesn't do the actual delay correctly, like the shooting array, because the arrow or the unit itself does not have an attack delay involved yet. To do so, I believe I need to go and say it's not only for the range, it's also for the millies that I'm gonna have. Let me create another header here first. Header attack general, and I need a serialized field for like a float, like an attack delay or something. And we can start with 0.5f or something. So, and I need some way to start or to get rid of that delay. And basically I can also use an invoke method, or to invoke something after a certain time. I can use a coroutine to reset that ability to do that, and so on and so forth. So maybe I'm gonna have another one which is also type float, but private in this case, which can be a current delay. So I have a number I can, measure against. And if I use a coroutine, which is actually maybe a bit too much over here. No, let me not use a coroutine. Let me just use that. I create a method, just a normal one, and say reset attack ability or something. Ability. Can't type today. Reset ability. And what I do need is a boolean. Like after I have done an attack, bool, I'm gonna say can attack. We can start it with true or false. Let's start with true. Since whenever the unit is fresh, we should be able to attack. So in that case, whenever we want to do a ranged attack, or literally any type of attack, we want to make sure that we can do an attack. So if can attack, actually if we not can attack, we want to leave this method. So we don't want to go for further if we cannot attack. If we can make an attack, well, currently we don't care about the millies. We currently only care my ranged over here. I want to invoke a certain method. Invoke with a big I. It is a mono develop one or mono behavior one, which is taking two inputs. First of the time after the method should be called, and the first one is just the method name. In my case, it's reset attack ability. Gonna copy that. Put this into quotes since it recommends or needs a string command. Then I can say comma, and then I can say how long should it wait. And it should wait until, well, the actual attack delay has been reached, like half a second. So I'm gonna put an attack delay. What's now happening is rather simple. After this waiting time, so basically the invoke method waits until the attack delay is done, then it calls, there needs to be an R, the reset attackability script. And in here I can just set the boolean, the attack delay basically, not the attack delay, but the can attack, to be equal to true. Oh, and before we actually do an attack here, maybe after we reach this check, we can do this like inside a coroutine. We can just say can attack is equal to false. So we cannot, like instantly, we can block new attacks popping in. Let's see if that works. So now we should have a shoot delay or an attack delay of half a second as we did before. So we are not shooting like a machine gun. Yeah. So let's see if that works right now, at least for the moment. So I'm gonna wait for my first enemy doing an approach. And there we go. Now we have a shoot delay. They are trying to hit him. They're shooting after him because he's quicker. Pretty good. Now I have still the problem that I cannot see if somebody is inside the sensor. Because anyhow, it gets reset too quick, it seems. Or it never gets triggered. No idea. So once again, in Ondro Gizmos, if none is doing something, I'm gonna see is undetected color. Otherwise, I get the detected color, and I always paint this ball over there. So why do I never see detected color, which is the red color in my particular case? Why is that? Maybe I missed something. Maybe I should increase the check delay. Detected enemies dot count bigger than 1. Is that even triggered at all? It should be triggered because I need to tell my unit to attack the enemy which has been detected at the very first place. So this works. So detected something is also true. So I guess I have to put an else. If nobody is detected, I should put it to be false. So who do I actually look for? I guess that should be it. Since every one tick, let's say, inside the while loop, I got reset it back to become green, and now I cannot become green because I have detected something. And if nobody is inside this green bubble, well, then it should return or should automatically become green. Otherwise, it stays red over here. Let's see if that works now. So once somebody is entering the bubble, I should see a red. There we go. So now we can absolutely 100% make sure that they are detecting them. And this sensor, like both sensors now, have created or have seen, there's somebody next to me. Sadly, they are too slow to not detect anymore that they are close to somebody. But maybe also these guys, which are actually detecting something else, which is going to look for the players on our enemy base, right? This sensor on the enemy base should also become red or any color I choose once they pass the actual ranged units over here. So they are going, they are moving along, and they should change that here on their own as well. To do so, I need to make the detection sensor and the attack sensor of my enemies to detect players to check to be in the player layer. So, and once again, this is also meant to be for buildings or for anything. So to go closer, choose a new target until they, for example, go into the next one, stop moving when they hit this sensor, and, you know, do that. Hey, Alex, thanks a lot for tuning in. Everything's fine on my side. Hope you enjoy the stream today. The rather new topic for me to do all of that RTS kind of things here. Now when the enemies bypass close enough into the first or in any sensor of them, doesn't matter if it is a closer sensor or the more way apart sensor, they should still see them as being enemies, like these ranged units. So when this guy passes, or this guy maybe passes, no, he is not being closed enough. But this guy now, why does he not see them enemies? I can tell you why. The players have to be in the player layer, like so. No, this object only is more than enough. So just a parent object. So now they can, they are sitting on the player layer, and they should be notified, or they should notice them as being enemies. So do it through their outer sensor. How do I later on determine between what they should do, like go and charge for them or do something else? Oh, there's a null reference exception popping up. What is that doing? Ah, you know what it is doing, right? They do not... let me open this one. They got the cube sensor. Oh, that's the wrong one, actually. I need the enemy one. They got these two sensors, but they do not know their own unit. So we're gonna have to drag in the base of them. And that's probably everything. Layer to check. Yeah. That's it. So as you can tell, they were requesting their own script, or their own unit script, and trying to fiddle out, hey, what shall I do when I detect some of these bad guys? Which didn't work because I didn't drag in the new unit script. So usually at the very beginning, I try to, you know, put it in, like if it is null, usually you put a null check, so you avoid null references. Something like, hey, only if null, do whatever is necessary. This can be heavy to find later on. But now they should turn their colors in red as well once they bypass. There we go. The inner guy here, the baddie, he just sees, hey, I'm touching somebody in my radius, in my range. I should not go after him and try to attack him. And so should the other one do. So when they don't, or are not able, or not inside the range anymore, they should not have this problem anymore. And same should happen later on when it comes to buildings. For example, if that is a building of myself, they want to destroy that. And what I want to do is I want to tag this building also to be a player building, because that is what I want to achieve and what I want to see. Same for towers later on. The towers and the walls, all of these will later on become automatically sensorable, so the enemies can attack them. And yeah, if you tell them to do that, right? So now they, with that sensor, they can see them. And they should also notice whenever they're close to that building, if it has a box collider. Not quite sure if we need a rigid body on that. We'll see in a moment. But I think you can see them. Or even the inner one was working pretty good. And now we can see this guy here has approached the building over here. He's actually, when he is close enough inside this inner detection range radius, I should tell them to stop moving. So basically not trying to reach their target anymore, just stop the actual movement and try to do an attack. And this is what I want to achieve. Since everything now works, I want to give maybe the possibility to have some kind of drop-down menu here to tell them exactly or to determine different actions based on an enum setting. I can create 100 enums or 10 or whatever, depending on how many of them specific sensors will become hit or will become created. Or if I need multiple, right? So I can have multiple sensors right now. To do so, I create a new, well, in this particular case, not a serialized field, I guess. I just create a new public enum. Let me put this, yeah, maybe like here. I'm gonna make a header first. Headers makes everything beautiful, or let's say more visible. So we got header, and in this header I put, how do I name it? It's literally, it's like the to-do, like the actions. Yeah, let it put like that. So it's an enum, no, not an enemy spawner, an enum. And I name this one, yeah, maybe actions. Why not? But not with a big A. Actions. Action list. I don't know. So what can I do? What are the different types of actions I can do? So I can do the actions directly from unit side. So basically when I'm close enough to the target, do so. If I'm not, well, then I'm not. The downs or the difference is here. Well, each unit type needs or has different settings, which could be strange, let's say. So for example, if we have a ranged unit, well, then we don't want to do anything when they are too close or when somebody is too close to an enemy, but probably running away, like in the opposite direction. And still try to shoot, or at first get out of range, so they're not too close to close range enemies. For example, I don't know yet, but this is something I would approach probably. And the next thing is when they are in the first sensor, that we want them to do attacks. The question is now, which sensor is more important? I haven't thought about it. Well, at least not for the moment. But we can maybe say each sensor can have two different settings. One is the attack sensor, the other one is the move closer or do a melee attack. If you are a melee, if you're a melee attack range guy. And maybe we can have another state, like basically like internal sensor states. That doesn't really make sense, I guess. Why is that so crucial right now? Let me make another painting. So I usually, when I don't know what the best would be, I'm gonna make a painting for myself and try to think about it. So let me assume I'm here. Let me make a red pen, and some guy is entering my outer range thing. I want to shoot him using an arrow or something and shoot the enemy. But if he's coming too close to me, if I do have an inner sensor, maybe that is the difference. Maybe the archers don't have an inner sensor. But what would they do if both are true? If this is true and this is true, even for a melee guy. For example, they have two sensors. One is when somebody is inside them, they try to go closer to that, so they target that one. And when they are in this sensor, they're continuously setting their target to this one. But if they are too close enough, they need to tell this sensor, hey, you are literally obsolete. Because when they come in here, they want to tell, hey, you have to do an attack to your enemy because it is close enough. So when I would have a ranged unit like this one and somebody is crossing that line, I would like them maybe to flee, go away, don't touch me, right? So they have to be, they maybe are not as fast as a melee unit, but they can try to at least get away, let's say, for example, and you can help them with your main player character. So this is the question: which action should happen at what certain point? If you have like two sensors basically sticking inside each other, because that is what's happening. We have two sensors which are constantly ticking and constantly checking if somebody is in here and in here when this line is, basically if this line has been crossed. That's a good question, actually. Maybe I need to do the sensors a bit different. Maybe I should activate them accordingly. No, I cannot deactivate them. I could deactivate this one if this one gets triggered. And if this is not, like the close one is not triggered, then I can activate this one. Or vice versa. So basically, yeah, that maybe makes sense. I can maybe take another sensor and enable and disable that. If the inner sensor, like if I have a second one, I can disable the outer one until nobody is in here anymore. Until I not detect anyone in the inner one, I can detect maybe outside. So I can do certain actions based on that. So I don't have this overlap happening. Maybe that's not a bad idea. I also don't know how many sensors I maybe have later on, but I believe I will only have two. So I only need to deactivate the outer sensor when somebody's inside the inner sensor, but only if maybe I'm a melee unit. Not quite sure. And also the question is, who is doing this? Are the sensors deactivating themselves each other, like back and forth? Probably. So maybe one sensor can deactivate another sensor. And it's corresponding game object. But if that is the case, I cannot use start. On that one, I should use onEnable. So whenever the script gets re-enabled, I can start, or I should start the coroutine, because if I am on disable, I want to stop the coroutine. Which brings us to another issue, maybe. So if I have a void on disable, which is called whenever we disable the script or probably also disable the game object, well, what do we want to do? We want to stop the coroutine. So we need to start this coroutine different. We can store the coroutine inside an extra field, or we just call it with a string parameter. Otherwise, we cannot stop it. Stop coroutine. Open close parentheses. Which one? Well, the checked one. Just in case. Next is now. Maybe I don't need this action list yet, but I can do something like another sensor here. Serialized field, another sensor. Maybe game object is better. Game object. I'm gonna name this outer sensor, because that is the one which is outside or far away from me. Outer sensor. And if it is not null and needed to be deactivated, like because somebody is inside the inner sensor, then I want to deactivate this. So basically, every time we have more than enough enemies over there inside that, then we say, okay, we have detected something is equal to true. When we have detected something, we want to check if outer sensor is not equal to null. No. We want to say outer sensor dot set active to be false. We want to deactivate the outer sensor at this case. and copy this. And if we have not detected anything in our case and our outer sensor is not equal to null, then we want to deactivate or reactivate our outer sensor. So everybody who is closer to us can do this. Also, I can now say I have an action list. I have maybe an idle. No idea if I need this. An attack. And a move closer. Maybe it was an underscore. Move closer. And also, since as we still see this header has no public variable under it, so it's red underlined, we're gonna create a new. In this case, I hope I can do this. I'm not quite sure if I need to make it a public one. A new action list. Action. No, I have to make it public. I guess. Do I? Or do I have a typo? Let's see. Attribute declaration is not. Maybe I'm gonna put that in the top. No idea why it doesn't like enums, but that's fine. No problem. So, when now an enemy is approaching the middle. Hi, noob. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the stream. If you have questions, feel free to ask. I try to answer as best as I can. So if somebody is now going inside a sensor who has a inner sensor like the enemies, this one have multiple, a detection sensor, which is the outer sensor, and this is the attack sensor. I should get and take the detection sensor into this attack sensor, so deactivate it, so whatever is happening outside has nothing to do anymore with that one. Well, that's what I hope, actually. And no idea what I want to do. Basically, the actions I want to do over here with this inner sensor is attacking, and this one here is basically just, well, going and moving closer on this because it is a melee guy. And on my player, maybe I'm gonna have, different things. I don't have an inner sensor, I just have the outer sensor in here. So whenever that inner sensor is going to, or the outer sensor is going to be here, I want to do an attack. I haven't done anything to this attack states or stuff like this yet, as you have seen. But I could also make an inner sensor and say, okay, run away as being another state or something. So finding a point behind them to try to get out of the range of the attacking guys, enemies, whatever. So now I want to see if the melee guys, the ones which are literally passing these two, are deactivating their outer sensor whenever they are coming in attack range, which should not happen for this or this guy. He should only have his outer one being coming red. Pretty good. But this guy now should. Ah, yes, that works. So now he is literally, he now is literally in attack range because he's close enough. And he deactivated his outer sensor because he has targets. But once he now gets outside of this attack sensor, he should deactivate the outer one. There we go. He still detects one of them with the outer sensor, so the coroutine already started or restarted through the on-earn neighbor function and becomes green now. Pretty good. So, and same here. When they approach that buildings, they're gonna try to come closer, and once they are in attack range, they deactivate the outer sensors once they're once they're allowed to go to that. So currently I don't have a stop mechanic or something, but that is pretty decent. This is exactly what I wanted. So now I can determine different actions like doing a melee attack or anything based on, well, these action lists, right? Or these action states like idle, attack, or move closer. And once again, maybe later on I'm gonna have another one which I can name run away. If I want that, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I don't use everything I implement here. Cool. So Androgismus works as it should. Now we need to determine just what is the current state for the current sensor to send over the correct information to our base unit to override whatever is currently happening over there. And for that I need, well, multiple scenarios. So not just attack the enemy, but also go closer to an enemy, create a new target, like reset or set a new target and or a new destination. Once close enough, do an attack and stuff like that. So how do I do this? I'm gonna use something called, well, basically it's like a finite state machine, which is literally the same stuff as this one, but I might go and update or maybe send some special information over there. Not quite sure, but I guess I can handle the states accordingly or just call certain different functions. For example, I'm gonna make a attack close. Literally, I'm not even 100% sure if I should do everything inside the unit class and not in the player class, but everything is going to be the same, so it's probably the best to use the unit class to fill in all the necessary content. And the player unit class is something, you know, player unit specific. So basically they're using this as a main class. So maybe I need to redesign code later on here and there. Attack close range or attack melee. The fun thing for that even is, no, basically I can keep the attack part as is because I determine between melee and ranged, but I need something to at least for move closer to target. And what I need to do for that is I need to pass in what should be the target I want to move closer to and then do my attack, right? Whenever I'm close enough, which is determined again from a sensor like the melee range sensor. So if I do move closer to target, these are the wrong parentheses. I don't like that. Move closer to target. So I need to first off need to know who is or what is the next target. I can use a game object, or transform, or a vector. How do I move? Usually, good question. My player unit, no, my actual unit uses the agent to set its destination to the target. So we can usually just set a new goal by using a vector 3. Pretty good. So we pass in a vector 3 to make stuff easier. We could even use set target or set goal, because then we override that and we set the new destination. The question is now, is that a good approach? Because once the target is not alive anymore, we want to go to our old target. So I believe I'm gonna store the main target, vector 3 main target. Gonna copy that, and whenever we set the goal, the main target is also going to become the goal. But now, whenever we set a new goal, we don't want to override the new goal or the main target. So we just want to set target to our new target. And if we don't have any targets anymore, let's say new target. I'm going to pass a new target in here. And so we set the new destination for that. And if we are melee type and we are close enough, we can call something like an attack. Do we? Can attack. Well, in here we just generate or create something like a hit object, which you just generate in front. So what we want to do is we want to look at our current target, transform, and anyhow attack in the close range. How do we move closer? We do move closer here. How do we determine if a target does not exist anymore? Well, basically, I got multiple states. Let's see. Gonna make another painting. So I have a normal move state. That's where everybody starts. I'm gonna go to my main goal. Main goal, MG. Once I find another target, meanwhile moving to my main goal, it's a secondary goal, I can do whatever, do an attack and stuff like that, but once that is not available anymore, and I don't get a new target, because nothing is close enough to me, and my outer sensor basically gets reset, I want to go and chase for my main goal again. So basically, the sensor should be able to determine that. Depending on the type of the sensor. For example, yeah, that should be it. So when I move closer to the target, I set my new target, which I can, it has to be public. I look to the target. What could I do? I could just tell whoever I'm hitting. Maybe I'm creating something like an object. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna create an attack object, and once that hits something or somebody gets hit with that, which is not, or who is, well, on a certain layer, once again, then I can do stuff. Maybe also use an overlap sphere or an overlap cube or something and hit them all or hit the first. So how do we get to that point? Can attack is equal to true. Reset, so we don't need reset. Well, when the opponent is gone, how do I know that? How does the unit know that the opponent has gone? It knows it from the sensor. The sensor can just say, if it not detects any it does not detect anyone, we can just tell the unit, my unit dot, it depends. Yeah, my unit dot set goal. But which goal? Basically, we need another one. And let's say set main target. It doesn't take any parameters. But we take main target. So when I set back the main target to be the target to move to, I can set its location back to its normal, except the other sensor, the outer sensor, is going to give some information over here. So I'm gonna have to comment out all the lines over here to later on don't get too distracted. So basically, if enemies are in range and if no enemies are in range. Detected something is going to be equal to 0. Pretty good. And set main target. And if it is an outer sensor, it activates that. And if the outer sensor just sees something, it goes back into the loop and probably chases for somebody else, set a secondary target or something like that. So instead of using myUnit.attack enemy, which should also only become piece or part of the, well, whichever detector, based on the setting, like if the action is equal to attack. So in here we can say we use that enum right now. So in case of like if action is equal to attack, or is equal to, what is it? Action list dot attack. I can also put this into a switch. I maybe rearrange that later. I want to send an attack message to the unit and say, hey, do an attack for this, and say we have found something. But only if it is an attack sphere or an attack sensor. If it is just a move closer sensor, then we want to do something else, right? So we can literally put all the substates or the possible states in here. So else if action is equal to action list dot move closer, which is going to be for melee units. Maybe I can say melee. Basically, it doesn't matter. Then I want to do my unit dot move closer to the target. And then I can tell who is the target. And the target is basically copy, paste. Detected enemies is a collider. On this collider, we got a transform. And on that, we should have a position. And this is the vector we need to go closer to the target to do the actual attack. Let's see if that works. So the sensors now are doing all the hard work, determining what should be happening. If the main goal is not reachable anymore, I try to delete some of them, maybe, or maybe I can perform a simple attack to get rid of them. Objects, they may go back into their main target, to go further into the next route or next positioning, whatever. Oh, that's funny. These guys now moving to to the middle of the field because they got well, I don't know what, but now they're gonna try to attack anyhow. And this guy now, as you can tell, he just changed his state, or these guys now changed their states because they have seen, oh, there's some trouble going on, and we need to get closer to these baddies. This guy as well. These other ones don't care. Pretty cool. So there are now some nasty fellas. They cannot get rid of them. They're shooting literally upside down and try to hit them. That's so good. So what's next? I don't know why they do move. They should stay static, or they should have these my player units, basically. The main ones which are getting generated. I should set their main targets probably wherever they get generated. Or kind of close. So each of them units should be, or would be, pretty tough one. If I got an attack sensor. Oh, that's interesting as well. This can be called from two sensors as well. That is probably not a good idea. Because it's constantly updating them to move to the main target. Maybe I should make them anyhow static so they do not do this, at least not for the moment. Later on, I'm not 1%. But the spawned units don't have a main target. Well, at least not for the moment. So when I instantiate them, I set their target, or I set their goal, I guess. Do I do this in the towers as well? No. So spawned units are not getting any information about this. So what I can do is from the towers, I can set their goals, their main goals, to be their spawn position if I want to. I probably have to change that a bit later. So I can tell new unit dot get component of type unit, and I want to set the goal for them, and the goal for them is the spawn point, the unit spawn point over there, or kind of close. What do I need to do? Set goal. Yeah, unit spawn point. Unit spawn point dot position, since it's taken a vector 3. And so when a tower generates a unit, or X, Y, Z, I pass in its spawn position. Yeah, that's better. Because currently I loop through the field and tell them where the main target is, or where they supposed to spawn. It's a little hard coded next to the spawn point over X. So they are getting generated next to each other. So if I would say I'm gonna take one of them and bring them, let's say here, they would go there. But at the same time, they also would try to attack the targets, which is obviously not correct. So when they do attacks, I should stop them. Which means inside the attack itself, but not type of sensor, but it has to happen in the unit. I just need to tell them whenever I do an attack, when I attack an enemy, and I cannot attack, at least not for the moment, I should just say something like nevmesh agent, I don't know how I named it, agent.stop. No, what is it? Can I just stop it? What does stop do? Stop movement of this agent along its current path. Not quite sure if I set a new destination that it gets stopped automatically. Is not cool. Okay, I should use is stopped because it's obsolete. Is stopped is equal to true, I guess. Property holds and stop resume condition of the mesh agent. Okay. So if it is stopped true, then I cannot do anything. If I go move to or set my main target again, I should say something like is stopped is equal to false. So I activate it or back. And if I need to move closer, I probably need to tell is false here as well. Gonna save that. And looks good. Let's see if that works. Again, I tried to pull one of my ray archers somewhere, so they are going back to their main object or to their main target. Once they attack, they should stop. So without moving, doing just their attacks. And once nobody is in range again, they should go forward. So I'm gonna pick this guy, bring them, let's say, bring him here. Maybe close to this one. And now, as we can tell, he has stopped and shot once. And now he's keep on going and moving next to his main target. Now he stopped again, shoots the target, and stopped moving. And shoots the other ones as well. Now he gets detected. If I drag him out here, he is trying to move back. And stops whenever somebody is going to approach. I wonder why this guy has not stayed and tried to become closer to the target. So like now, he just kind of slips through and doesn't really recognize to go closer. I mean, he's watching me, but he's not doing much more than that. Maybe he is close enough to do some damage. But that's a pretty good one. Now what do I need is I need to do damage to the others. Anyhow, for example, if my arrow hits somebody, I need to invoke a method or something to hit them. So my unit now, let's see if I have something prepared. I have prepared a take damage function here, which is a virtual void, which I can override at any time. So whichever unit I literally hit, I can destroy the game object. I'm not quite sure if it is necessary to become a virtual function, since from another end I would have to do something like health check and yada yada yada. So probably not needed, at least not for the moment. But I can destroy the game object whenever I call take damage. And what I can do is whenever I try to do damage somebody else, I need to know who that is. Who am I currently targeting? Which I do know whenever I do attack an enemy or attack if I do any kind of attack. Fun fact is this melee units here, they don't really do some kind of attackish thing, but I can see who I'm looking at or who am I currently targeting and who can I do damage to. And in that case, I can, I gotta have enemy units, I have player units, but all of them are still inheriting unit. So I can, from the actual target game object, I can get who I'm currently targeted at and I want to damage to. And so when I do a close range attack, I can just say, hey, destroy the opponent's game object once I'm allowed to. So I'm gonna take the unit, I catch the unit, so I don't know, baddie, a bad guy, whoever that is coming from target dot get component. At least I try to get a unit over there, at least for the moment, and I want to see if that is not null. So but I want to do this whenever I do an actual attack. So if unit not equal null, actually baddie or bad guy, whoever that bad guy is, if that is not equal to null, we can call that bad guy, and basically take damage, or in this case we want to do damage to them, which means we are going to destroy that. That also maybe later on happens to other scenarios. This take damage thing is later on also happen in consideration when it comes to health. Like if somebody has health X and we want to reduce it down to 0, we have to do multiple attacks because maybe the attack of one unit is not the same attack as of another unit. Like a big guy has big HP and a small guy has smaller HP and so on. So when it comes to let's say optimizing content, and same here. So for this part, we need to tell the arrow to do the damage. So whenever the arrow hits the other target, then we want to go and tell them. And we are just sending over, at least for the moment, some vectors and getting the arrow pass to this vector. So currently the arrow does not know anything. But when it comes to the arrow itself, I should be able to, whenever the arrow hits something, I could also use a normal on trigger enter function. Let's see if my melee guys are able to do damage to bad guys. These enemy units should be now able to destroy my archers when they are close enough to attack them. Let's see if that works. I'm gonna pick one again and bring this somewhere. So they cannot do anything, they just stay there. They should be able to kill him fast or faster. This guy now deleted this guy. And in here we get a missing a reference. So they approached that target and they destroyed them, but now they don't know what to do. Now I need to figure out what they try to get in here. So the box collider has been destroyed, but I'm still trying to access it, which is funny. And it only triggered twice. But now when they don't have any targets, why don't they go further? Why don't they go back after they have destroyed them? Why don't they go back to the main loop to, access them again? So in sensor line 65, let's see. I try to attack them. If the detected enemies that count as bigger than 0, which at this point is not anymore. And in the next recheck, This is actually funny. I clear the enemies here. I know that they are there. I know I have this enemies in list. But somebody else killed it before the other guy probably could kill it. So two tried probably the same thing. Or even if it is just one, I got rid of it. But that's what I mean. How do I know that the enemy is not back to life anymore? How do the sensor now has to act to get the guy up and running or back into the loop? Who knows that? Or who can update this? So because if I am an attack one and I have no enemies left, the problem is when it comes to null reference exception, for whatever reason, the rest of the code is not called. And this is actually a problem. In general, I should say the actual I really need to make sure that this is not a null request. And I really need to make sure that this is not a null request. How do I do this? I mean, I get into this. If detected enemy is bigger than 0, I should know that this is happening. But if they overlap, like if two things at the same time happening, I kill it, like here, and somebody else is in the same request, or even me in the second or in the next iteration. Like I'm killing that from the other side, and then I come back and I should see that this one is not alive anymore. So how can I do this? I have no idea, at least for the moment. I mean, I'm checking this list, and in the next half second, I try, or I should go and re-update this one. I try to access something which is not there. Good question. It's basically the same thing if somebody is moving inside and outside. But if it is inside and I want to act to it, but something else happens to get rid of that, that's not good. I mean, if a melee guy dies or, gets destroyed, deleted, whatever, I should have the same issue because the arrow guys are still trying to attack him. But when he is not available anymore, I don't even know why this guy is not coming closer. So this guy is now stuck. He's stuck because he deleted the other one and loses loses its path. What shall I do to all the units to avoid this? And he cannot do anything. And he will just destroy him. Now they are both stuck. What is the problem? Or you should not destroy the game object. What happens if I deactivate the game object? Like, whenever we take damage, we just deactivate the game object instead of destroying it. I mean, I don't know if that is going to be anything worse. Thinking about this. Let's say this dot game object dot set active false. Gonna keep the semicolon there. And if I just deactivate an object, well, I still get rid of everything, and I should still get a missing reference exception because, well, I take away whatever they are currently aiming at. So what is the difference? Basically, I don't think that there is any difference. Okay, so funny. At least I don't get the null reference anymore, but now they can go further. That's funny. Yeah, it's really funny. So at least I got rid of it, but the first one got stuck on the second enemy because it was surrounded by a second one. So deactivating objects is more likely the one they want to see here. But it still has some issues. Because the other one, the other guy, the other enemy did not got the first one in the list detected or even damaged. Where is it getting? I mean, it looks like that it got stuck in here. Which is absolutely phenomenal. I have no idea. Maybe I don't need an else if statement here, but I don't think that is going to do any difference. Maybe I need to do some reset. Which I thought I'm doing in the check anyways. And the reset is basically something where I should, whenever I have done something, that I say, hey, go and do a recheck no matter what. So recheck in case of get out of this while loop and restart all over, or get out of this coroutine and start all over, and so on and so forth. So that the sensors are not messing up each other and they can do multiple attacks one after another. So maybe I could just say, stop this coroutine, just get out of it. Maybe put an exit flag and exit out. And when everything is nice and clean again, get back in. Because here he is not doing a next attack. Let me see if I find this guy. Enemy base. Who are you? So let's see what this attack sensor says. It says, aha, it's this, but I should debug that and see maybe the detected enemies. And we can see this one is detected. I am not the agent. Oh God, once again. Check delay. He detected something. He detected this player unit clone box collider. So this is basically he was able, or he currently detects this guy. So enemy in range list. No idea what that is from, but I guess I don't need this anymore. So, yeah, he detects this guy, but he doesn't do anything. So he has a box collider found. That is where the problem is coming from, basically. So he detects by using this overlap sphere. He gets the, he gets the guy. Maybe I should put the time at the bottom. Like the reset time. Maybe I should not put the reset time on the top. Maybe I should put it outside of the wall scenario, so he can go through everything and not redetect it, but not know what to do. Let's see if that makes anyhow a difference. Because he's able to detect it. He sees that there's somebody in this list. But why doesn't he act? Oh, maybe it's not about the sensor in this case. Okay, that does not make sense. So the current time has to become Control X. Has to become in here. I believe. That's what's happening. The unit melee type is maybe, well, doing its damage. It's trying to, damage the other guys, but he's not resetting its attack ability, so he doesn't care anymore. So I guess I got it. So the problem was, or is probably, if I'm not taking care of resetting the attack possibility for melee units, well, then they can only attack once, and others can only attack only once, which is actually a fun thing. But now we should see the first guy and the second guy both died. Pretty good. Now it works as it should. And literally I just disable game objects, so probably because they're part of this tower, I can reuse them later on for like with object pooling, which, makes our life here a bit easier, probably based on, what shall I say, based on memory. Cool. So attacks from the bad guys are going to work. Now, the final thing I want to do and try to solve is letting the ranged units do some damage. So trying to get rid, like with an arrow, when an arrow hits a melee or any unit, that I can also do damage to them. So the easiest would be if I do this directly inside the arrow. Let me collapse some things here and there. So here I want to just see who I hit with the arrow. So basically when I say on collision enter, I want to get a unit. So a unit, I don't know, unit is equal to col dot get component. I believe, can I do get component directly? I don't know. I want to get or catch the unit first. Then I want to see if the unit, I need to probably, since I might be able to shoot myself, I might want to go for and see if I'm in the same faction, or the arrows faction is basically like, you know, a goodie or a baddie, or maybe I make it layer based. So an arrow layer gets set by who, or any kind of a projectile gets any layer to check, like if it is a bad guy layer or a good guy layer, and so they do, you know, different things. So if unit is not equal to null, so we found a unit, well, not unity, just unit with a big U, what was a small u? If unit is not equal to null, so we found something, well, then we can say we take down, or we do damage to that unit. So we say unit dot take damage and nothing else. And then we want to destroy ourselves. So destroy dot game object. Well, we can also, oh, not dot. I need to put this in parentheses. Destroy game object. But one of pair of parentheses is enough. Also, when an arrow is not, yeah, that's probably another fun fact. I'm gonna implement void start. I'm gonna destroy the arrow after a second or so. Destroy, or at the end of the pass, like whenever it has ended to be flying on the pass. Let's assume destroy game object, comma, and now determining a time of, let me put 8 seconds. Not quite sure. After 8 seconds, I want this arrow to destroy itself. So we are basically getting rid of thousands of arrows lying around everywhere, depending on how many units are going to crawl around or are available over there. So the arrow, hopefully, is now able to hit anything, at least anything for the moment, which has a unit. Even they could even destroy their own themselves, basically. So whenever an arrow hits an enemy, the enemy should die. Let's see if that works. So he was not able to shoot him. There we go. He shot him and its sensor became green again. So he cannot shoot them. They are too fast. But he was able to shoot the other guy. I wonder why my tower is only creating one guy, one unit. This guy. He should actually, he shot his own guy, or he shot himself. So they probably start with one unit, no, with 2 units, and probably they shoot themselves for whatever reason. Maybe they shoot across or something, and so they hit themselves. So the arrows need to, let's see. This guy shot the other guy. Okay. So basically that works pretty good. Now I need to know who to damage. So if I wanna damage with this arrow, do I wanna damage peeps on on which side, like on which layer basically, or if it is a, you know, detect, I don't know, I can put a string or a something. So there are 2 possibilities, I guess, to do so. The first one is whenever I set the target, I probably also want to set the faction layer, the faction, like whoever gets hit, and check against that certain layer here as well. So if a unit is not just null, but also is in the same faction, or not in the same faction basically as this one, or the same faction which I pass over whenever I set a new target, well then I'm allowed. I could even say if the target is the same. Nah, that's bad. I could, I was thinking about, I could say if the target is the same as I targeted, but that obviously does not happen often enough, let's say. So what I want to do now, What do I want to do now? I need a layer mask here. How do I enemy layer, whoever that is. So when I set the target, I want to also set a layer mask. Layer 2, check. And meanwhile, setting this one, I'm gonna put this on top and say layer to check, or actually enemy layer is equal to layer to check. Oh, not that, just a single. Control S. And on trigger I can say and unit dot, oh, wrong one. And unit dot, it's not layer, but dot game object dot layer should be correct, is equal to enemy layer. Well, then I should determine that I can hit whoever I want to hit. I'm not hitting somebody else. Well, that's what I assume and what I hope. So I cannot shoot myself, and vice versa, the enemies cannot shoot themselves, which would be funny, but nah. I don't want that. The thing is, once I set the target here, I need to pass over at the last condition to put the layer mask, the layer I want to check. So, and I got, do I got a layer to check here? No. What do I have? I have no layer to check. I get rid of this list, at least for the moment. I don't need it. How do I now know the layer? I can pass it over. Layer mask, layer 2. Check. I'm gonna put an underscore so I don't confuse myself. Same here, put an underscore. And now from each sensor, whenever I attack an enemy, I need to pass in the layer to check, which is here. And now I can hopefully do layer-based damage checks. So in the long run, these two should not shoot themselves anymore. So basically, the top one should not be allowed to check the top one, or the top one should not be allowed to shoot the top one, which is not happening anymore. Pretty good. But also they are not able to shoot the other guy. So what does it mean is I need to take a look into a shot arrow. And check its stats. So the enemy's layer is the enemy, and the enemy base has also this enemy. And now I just need to see if they even hit this guy, which they don't. Okay, now he got hit with one of them arrows. And he should not be alive anymore. Enemy base clone. Pretty interesting. I gonna go and take my tower just to make sure, and I create 10 units and see what's happening. So each of them should do different things. And they are generated next to each other, so I might get rid of the gizmos first. So this one here should not be distracted from the bottom one. So he should get hit. But why doesn't he get hit? Enemy unit, melee enemy unit. What does the enemy unit have in here? We don't need this. Anymore. Debug.log. I want to see or want to debug if the arrows are actually hitting anything. Hitted. Who a unit dot game object. Hitted dot unit. Unit dot game object. So probably something is fishy with the layer to check enemy layer and stuff like that. And once I got this mistake out of the way, everything is fine for today. Sorry about my chair. So if I see anything in the console, then I know that the arrow can do damage. But if not, well, big questions are in here. So it doesn't even get triggered, so the arrows don't do any hits. How many of them arrows are in there? He has a rigid body. Maybe because he's kinematic. No, I don't think that has to. Does it has to be, or is it probably just because they're a kinematic? Kinematics are just not reacting to anything. They're just lying around. And don't get any touch abilities. Let's see if that is the problem. No, has nothing to do with kinematics. That's really funny. Why can they do damage to me, but they cannot do damage to the unit they are hitting? Why don't they find a unit? Do they even find a unit? Good question. Debug.log unit. I just want to see if unit is not equal to null. Maybe I cannot get the component from the collider, but need to get it from the game object of the collider. Yeah. They don't even recognize that they're hitting something. That should hit him, definitely. Good question. Well, I don't think I'm going to cover this today, so I'm gonna try to find the error later on. So for the moment, I'm gonna stop it here. So I am pretty happy with the sensor scenario and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try to fill that out for the next session, and probably gonna encounter some more problems over here. But for the moment, I'm pretty happy so far. So melee can do attacks to range, but not vice versa. I'm not quite sure if melee can damage to melees, which I could also test pretty quick. Basically, I just take the same unit, put it somewhere, and make it, basically it doesn't matter. It will run to the center point, I guess, on the fly. And I'm gonna make this a melee character, and it should just, go closer to somewhere, and it should do, well, what does it try to do? Sensor line for 84 from on enable sensor 81. Sensor 81, set main target. If main target is equal to can I do not equal no? Or actually, when it is equal to no, I'm gonna set main target to be equal to transponder position. I'm not quite sure if that makes any difference, but that's like the last thing I wanna just see, like if I put something in the middle of nowhere, that I'm allowed to do so. So now he moves anywhere. Well, our reference still comes from that point. No idea. Line 81 set main target. Unit line 117, which is basically this one. Set goal. To transform the position, maybe. So, yeah, last try over here. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna do this off screen. Well, yeah, it doesn't, so never mind. I didn't want to get this target. So whenever he detects something, he get destroyed. So, but he did not attack anyone on a close range target because he doesn't have, like, if it is a melee guy, then the sensor here should be, well, yeah, an attack one, which means nothing. I don't know. So yeah, this sensor should make him still attack others. But yeah, when there's this null reference, it's going to do something weird over here. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna stop the stream over here today. Thanks a lot for all of you guys haven't been inside the stream. And if you have any further questions, feel free to put them down below in the comments area. And yeah, I'm gonna go forward with that in the next stream. So maybe I'm gonna do some some work off screen, so you don't have to wait until something happens here on screen, because, well, I have to fix some issues over there. Have a good one. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and talk to you next time.